What if humanity's greatest threat wasn't something explosive, but something invisible instead? Killer virus movies have been infecting our imaginations for years, showing just how fragile society becomes when microscopic threats get loose. From pandemics to post-apocalyptic chaos, these films of the past remind us that sometimes even a gas mask isn't going to save you. Now, let's get into it.
Fantasy, sci-fi, nostalgia, rerun zone.
The Andromeda Strain, 1971.
I'm afraid you don't understand. All you can do is stop it. In a biological emergency, the bomb is activated automatically.
This is one of the best killer virus films of all time. If you haven't seen this film, it still holds up today. It's a science fiction thriller directed by Robert Wise, based on Michael Crichton's gripping novel. Yes, that's the same Michael Crichton that gave us Jurassic Park. The story begins when a US satellite crashes near a small New Mexico town, unleashing a deadly extraterrestrial microorganism that wipes out the entire population, except for an infant and an old man. A team of elite scientists is quickly assembled and whisked away to a secret underground laboratory known as Wildfire. Inside this high-tech bunker, the scientists race against time to study the alien microbe, dubbed Andromeda. The film delves deep into the scientific process, showcasing state-of-the-art, for its time, technology and procedures. As they peel back the layers of this microscopic menace, they discover that Andromeda mutates rapidly and poses an unprecedented threat to humanity. The tension builds methodically and makes you think about the thin line between order and chaos. For anyone who appreciates a thoughtful story without relying on flashy special effects, the Andromeda Strain delivers, and it's a reminder that sometimes even washing your hands just isn't enough against those alien germs. The Last Man on Earth, 1964.
They're perfect. Just wide enough to keep the flesh apart so their body seal can function.
In The Last Man on Earth, Vincent Price stars as Dr. Robert Morgan, the last man standing after a catastrophic plague turns the world's population into blood-sucking vampires. The film unfolds with a bleak and darkly comedic twist on survival. By day, Morgan roams the desolate streets of what was once civilization, staking vampires left and right in a grim routine. Imagine the absurdity. The last man on Earth, essentially, working a 9-to-5 job as a vampire exterminator. But when the sun goes down, the tables turn. Morgan transforms from hunter to hunted, barricading himself inside his home, where his former neighbors now claw at the windows, desperate for a taste of what's left of humanity. The film, an adaptation of Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, isn't just about survival. It's a deep dive into the mind of a man who has lost everything but still clings to hope with a twisted sense of humor. Morgan's daily life becomes a study in solitary confinement, where his experiments to reverse the vampire plague provide both purpose and a semblance of sanity. Price's portrayal adds a layer of tragic humor. Here's a man who, in a world full of monsters, might just be the most monstrous for not giving up. 12 Monkeys, 1995.
5 billion people died in 1996 and 1997. Most of the entire population of the world.
Directed by Terry Gilliam, the man who gave us 1981's Time Bandits, and who got his start with the Monty Python comedy troupe in the 1970s, 12 Monkeys is a mind-bending journey that artfully blends science fiction with psychological drama. Bruce Willis stars as James Cole, a convict from a dystopian future where a virus has decimated most of the human population, forcing survivors underground. Cole is selected to travel back in time to the 1990s to gather information about the virus's origin, believed to be linked to a mysterious group called the Army of the 12 Monkeys. Upon arriving, Cole's erratic behavior lands him in a mental institution, where he meets psychiatrist Dr. Catherine Rayleigh, played by Madeline Stowe, and the eccentric Jeffrey Goins, played by Brad Pitt, in an Oscar-nominated role. As Cole grapples with his mission and his sanity, the lines between past and future blur. Is he really on a quest to save humanity, or is it all just a figment of his imagination? Before I get to the next movie, as most of you know, I'm just one guy, 70 years young, putting this all together with a lot of love for classic TV, movies, and cartoons from back in the day. If you enjoy these trips down memory lane, I'd be thrilled if you hit that subscribe button, or even consider becoming a channel member. It's a simple way to keep this passion project going strong, and it means the world to me. Thanks for being a part of this journey. Now, back to the show. Outbreak, 1995.
So many so fast.
Apparently they all got it at a movie theater.
Directed by Wolfgang Petersen, Outbreak is a tense thriller that explores the terrifying speed at which a deadly virus can spread. The story centers around Colonel Sam Daniels, played by Dustin Hoffman, an army virologist who identifies a highly contagious and lethal virus called Motaba, originating from an African rainforest. When the virus makes its way to a small town in California via an infected monkey, all hell breaks loose. As the town becomes a hot zone, Daniels clashes with his superiors, played by Morgan Freeman and Donald Sutherland, over the drastic measures being considered to contain the outbreak, including bombing the town. Rene Russo co-stars as Dr. Roberta Keogh, Daniels' ex-wife and a fellow scientist, adding personal stakes to the race against time to fight this killer virus. Outbreak combines medical drama with action-packed sequences and makes it both entertaining and unsettlingly plausible. It's a film that highlights how quickly societal norms can crumble in the face of an invisible enemy. The Omega Man, 1971.
Hit it. They're blinded.
Okay, baby. Hitch up your drawers.
In The Omega Man, Charlton Heston takes on the role of Dr. Robert Neville, possibly the last uninfected man in a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles. This is another very loose adaptation of Richard Matheson's novel I Am Legend. The film paints a haunting picture of isolation and survival after a biological war between superpowers releases a devastating plague. In this adaptation, the infected humans are more like albino mutants than traditional vampires. By day, Neville cruises the empty streets, collecting supplies and tinkering in his lab, trying to find a cure. By night, he hunkers down in his fortified apartment as the family emerges, mutated nocturnal beings who despise all remnants of the technological world they believe led to humanity's downfall. Led by the charismatic Matthias, they see Neville as the last obstacle to their new order. The film captures the essence of early 70s sci-fi, complete with philosophical musings and a dash of camp. When Neville encounters other survivors, including a woman named Lisa, the story explores themes of hope and the human need for connection. The Omega Man is a time capsule that blends action, suspense, and a touch of groovy style. It might just make you appreciate the bustle of city life, or at least the company of unmutated neighbors. Panic in the Streets, 1950.
Let me see my wife.
I can't let you go in there.
What'd you do to her?
Your wife is dead.
Dead?
In Panic in the Streets, the bustling streets of New Orleans become the backdrop for a high-stakes race against time when a seemingly ordinary murder unveils an extraordinary threat. After a man is killed in a brawl on the docks, his body is brought to the morgue, where a sharp-eyed coroner notices something unusual. Enter Dr. Clinton Reed, a dedicated public health official, who identifies the real killer, pneumonic plague, an airborne, highly contagious, and deadly disease. With only 48 hours to prevent a catastrophic outbreak, Reed must convince skeptical city officials and a wary police department to take swift, decisive action. Teaming up with Detective Captain Tom Warren, Reed launches a frantic investigation to trace the victim's identity and every contact he made while infected. Meanwhile, the criminals responsible for the murder unwittingly become part of the ticking biological time bomb threatening the city. As the team navigates the gritty underbelly of New Orleans, tensions mount between the relentless pursuit of justice and the imperative to prevent mass panic. Panic in the Streets combines noir intrigue with the nail-biting urgency of a public health emergency. The Killer That Stalked New York, 1950.
Maybe he got it from one of his customers.
And maybe not. It's getting out of hand when it gets around to children and food. We can't just sit by and wait for a case to come in, then rush vaccine over. It's too late then.
In one of the earliest entries on this list, The Killer That Stalked New York is a noir thrill ride that weaves crime drama with a public health crisis. The movie is based on a real-life incident from 1947 and was filmed in a semi-documentary style. In the film, Sheila Bennett returns from Cuba, smuggling $50,000 in diamonds, only to find herself chased by Treasury agents. Desperate, she mails the diamonds to her scheming husband Matt, but her problems are far from over. Feeling sick, Sheila faints on the street and is taken to a clinic, where she inadvertently infects a little girl. Misdiagnosed with a cold, Sheila leaves, unaware that she's carrying smallpox, igniting a deadly outbreak. Meanwhile, Dr. Ben Wood becomes the city's reluctant hero, racing against time to trace the outbreak back to Sheila as the smallpox outbreak spreads and panic consumes New York City. With a dark comedic twist, Sheila worries more about her diamond heist than the pox marks on her skin. Agents finally piece together that Sheila is the source, but she eludes them, unaware of the chaos she's caused. The Satan Bug, 1965.
All right, drop that gun.
Tell them I'll throw it. Don't move. Just do exactly whatever he tells you to do.
In The Satan Bug, a deadly biological weapon threatens to wipe out humanity when it's stolen from a top-secret government facility in the Mojave Desert, which houses a series of lethal pathogens, including the titular Satan Bug, a virus so deadly that it could eradicate all life on Earth. The theft sets off alarm bells at the highest levels of government, plunging the nation into a race against time to recover the stolen virus before it can be unleashed. Lee Barrett, a former intelligence agent, is brought back into action to lead the investigation. As Barrett digs deeper, he discovers a tangled web of espionage, deception, and greed. The film creates a tense atmosphere where every clue could lead to salvation or disaster. Along the way, Barrett must navigate dangerous confrontations and moral dilemmas, all while trying to stay one step ahead of the shadowy figures behind the plot. Directed by John Sturges, The Satan Bug combines the thrills of Cold War-era spy dramas with the terrifying stakes of biological warfare. It delivers a gripping story that raises chilling questions about humanity's control over its own creations. The Crazies, 1973.
I'm a scientist. I'm with the team. I got a cure for Trixie here. Will you listen to me? I'm working on the virus.
This one's a cult classic, directed by George A. Romero. A quiet Pennsylvania town becomes the epicenter of a catastrophic biological disaster. When a military plane carrying a top-secret bioweapon crashes near Evans City, the virus, codenamed Trixie, leaks into the local water supply. This pathogen is no ordinary bug. It drives those infected into violent, uncontrollable madness or causes a gruesome death. The infection spreads quickly, turning friends and neighbors into unpredictable and deadly threats. The military swoops in, imposing martial law and attempting to quarantine the town, but their heavy-handed approach only makes it worse. Amid the chaos, firefighter David, his pregnant girlfriend Judy, and their 3 friends band together to escape the quarantine zone. Their journey is a desperate struggle for survival as they face not only the deranged infected, but also the soldiers enforcing the lockdown. Trust becomes a luxury as the line between friend and foe blurs. Romero masterfully weaves tension and social commentary, exploring themes of government overreach, public panic, and the fragility of societal order. The Crazies is a haunting reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control when humanity faces an enemy it can neither see nor understand. And it might make you think twice about what's in your tap water. Virus, 1980. Virus is a Japanese post-apocalyptic science fiction film directed by Kinji Fukasaku. With a star-studded international cast, it's one of the most expensive Japanese films of its time. The story begins with the accidental creation of a deadly pathogen, MM88, by an American geneticist. This synthetic virus doesn't just kill, it amplifies the lethality of any existing pathogen. When MM88 is stolen and inadvertently released, It combines with a strain of influenza, sparking a pandemic known as the Italian flu. The outbreak quickly spreads and wipes out most of humanity. The only survivors are 855 men and 8 women stationed in Antarctica, the one place on Earth where the virus can't survive the frigid temperatures. They're humanity's last hope, and while they grapple with trying to rebuild society, they face an additional threat: automated nuclear defense systems programmed to trigger a launch in the event of a global catastrophe. Now, here are some movies that are worth your time if you want to dive into more recent offerings in this genre. Post-2000 killer virus movies. I Am Legend 2007. This one stars Will Smith as Dr. Robert Neville, a scientist navigating the desolate streets of a post-apocalyptic New York City. In this movie, a genetically engineered virus intended to cure cancer has mutated, killing off most of humanity and transforming the rest into aggressive, light-sensitive creatures known as Darkseekers. Neville is immune to the virus and dedicates his life to finding a cure, all while broadcasting daily radio messages in hopes of finding other survivors. Contagion, 2011. Contagion is a gripping thriller that begins with a woman returning from a business trip to Hong Kong, unknowingly carrying a lethal virus. Within days, she succumbs to the illness, and the virus rapidly spreads globally, causing widespread panic. The story delves into the scientific race to develop a vaccine and the societal breakdown as fear escalates. It's a realistic portrayal of a pandemic's progression, making Contagion compelling and unsettling. The Crazies, 2010. This is a modern reimagining of Romero's original movie from 1973 and brings updated chills and gore to the classic tale. Set in the fictional town of Ogden Marsh, Iowa, the film follows Sheriff David Dutton as he confronts the aftermath of a mysterious toxin contaminating the water supply. Residents begin exhibiting violent behavior, and the military enforces a brutal quarantine. The remake amplifies the horror elements with contemporary special effects and a faster pace, while retaining the original's themes of mistrust and the breakdown of social order. Pontypool, 2008. Pontypool offers a unique twist on the virus genre. Set in a small-town radio station in Pontypool, Ontario, the film follows shock jock Grant Mazzy as he broadcasts his morning show. Reports begin to surface of strange occurrences and violent behavior among the townspeople. As the situation escalates, it becomes apparent that the English language itself is the vector for the virus, with certain words triggering the infection. With its innovative premise and strong performances, Pontypool is a thought-provoking entry in the killer virus genre. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If I missed any of your favorites, leave them in the comments below. Until next time, this is Rich from Rerun Zone. Good night.